Welcome to this explainer. Look, if you're feeling totally exhausted by the endless toxicity of modern digital discourse, trust me, you are not alone. Today, we're unpacking a structural solution to digital burnout based on some incredibly fascinating source material. We're going to explore a completely different way to view the internet, and more importantly, how we might actually fix it.
So, let's kick things off with a common assumption. Is social media dividing us simply because we only hear what we want to hear? Well, the source material suggests a really surprising answer, and that answer is a resounding no. What's actually driving our fractured society is a fascinating mystery, and it challenges pretty much everything we assume about our online lives.
Section 1. The Great Digital Divide, Fracturing Along Ideological Fault Lines. Okay, let's dive into this. Right now, it honestly feels like political debate has morphed into existential cultural warfare, right? And we naturally blame social media isolation. But this central thesis from our source material, it creates a massive paradigm shift. It argues that we aren't suffering because we're isolated from opposing views. We're suffering because we are constantly exposed to them without the empathy, the social glue required to keep us human in each other's eyes. The core problem here is overexposure without a foundation of connection. When we see a dissenting opinion without any other context about that person, well, it immediately feels like a threat rather than a conversation.
Section 2. The Filter Bubble Myth. Rethinking our digital isolation. There's this old, tired narrative out there, the filter bubble myth, which basically says that algorithms hide the other side from you, locking you in a customized echo chamber. And this brilliantly illustrates the contrast, because the surprising truth, backed by real-world data, is that we actually face relentless exposure to provocative, clashing worldviews on our feeds every single minute. The giant platforms aren't hiding opposing opinions. No, they are thrusting them directly at us at maximum volume, constantly surfacing the absolutely most extreme voices from groups we don't even belong to.
Ironically, our real, physical lives are often way more ideologically isolated than our digital ones. Think about it. Our neighborhoods, workplaces, and families usually share similar backgrounds and naturally lack radical ideological dissent. I mean, we rarely get into screaming matches about global policy while waiting in line at the grocery store, right? It's primarily on these mega platforms where we're bombarded by clashing worldviews totally stripped of all local nuance. So why does this endless digital exposure breed so much animosity instead of understanding?
Section 3. The Stone Age Brain, Evolution versus Mega Platforms.
50 to 150. That right there is a totally crucial scale in human history. You see, our brains evolved over hundreds of thousands of years to cooperate in small, tightly knit tribes of exactly this size. Our survival depended entirely on navigating cooperation within a group of this specific manageable scale. We simply aren't wired to process the social dynamics of millions of strangers simultaneously. It's just not how our brains work.
In those small tribes, group stability relied on something absolutely vital, and that's social glue. It's the shared context, like, depending on the same harvest, living in the same village, or even just rooting for the same local sports team. This glue creates multi-dimensional relationships. It smooths over personal friction, ensuring that even if you strongly disagree with a neighbor's perspective, you still see them as the person who helped fix your roof or the parent of your kid's classmate.
But when millions of people are funneled into a single global digital square, that social glue completely vanishes. In response, the brain kind of panics and uses shortcuts in a process sociologists call social sorting. First, ideology becomes identity. Without local context, a stranger's political stance literally becomes their entire persona. Next, they get flattened into teams, sorted onto the enemy team rather than being viewed as a complex individual. And finally, outrage amplification takes over. Platforms prioritize high arousal emotions to keep us scrolling, leading our brains to conclude that the other side is just malicious.
Section 4. The Digital Village, What the Early Internet Got Right. Let's move to and see how this builds on our history.
Looking back at the late 1990s, the internet was this sprawling archipelago of small digital villages. We're talking bulletin boards, specialized forums, niche blogs. By the early 2000s, this content was mostly ordered chronologically, completely free from algorithmic rage engines. But today, we find ourselves trapped in monolithic, giant global squares optimized almost entirely for engagement through high arousal anger. We lost the village, and we were placed inside a gladiatorial arena.
Those early digital villages actually worked really well for a few key reasons. First off, they had bounded scales, meaning they were small enough for people to build genuine, lasting reputations.
Second, people gathered around shared interests, like hobbies, crafts, or music genres, rather than rigid, all-encompassing ideologies. Third, they had local norms and governance. If a space didn't fit, you simply moved to another village that suited you better. And crucially, there was absolutely no algorithmic rage engine pushing extreme content to the top. They effectively mirrored human psychology at a totally manageable scale.
Section 5. Micro-communities as the solution. Rebuilding trust through shared interests.
So how do we fix this? There are 4 key mechanisms for how micro-communities help heal the divide. Number 1, shared interest creates initial trust. Imagine a conservative mechanic and a progressive graphic designer bonding over shared passion for restoring vintage cars. By the time political topics bubble up months later, respect is already established. Number 2, restoring multidimensional identity, where you realize the person you disagree with on tax policy also shares your quirky sense of humor. Number 3 is human-scale moderation over blunt force automated algorithms. And number 4, replacing the megaphone with a living room.
Now, what's really interesting about this concept is the stark behavioral difference depending on the digital environment you're in. The megaphone of mega platforms demands public performance. We feel immense pressure to signal loyalty, score points, and dunk on the opposition because, well, millions of onlookers are watching. In contrast, the living room of a micro-community is private and self-contained. The pressure to perform drops dramatically. Conversations feel like a chat among acquaintances, allowing for nuance, the admission of error, and a genuine curiosity that is basically impossible on a global stage.
Section 6. A decentralized digital future. Reclaiming human scale.
The good news? We don't have to abandon digital communication to reclaim our mental peace. We just need actionable tools to rebuild human scale. We need to envision a web structured as a vibrant network of thousands of distinct digital spaces. So the crucial point is, for viewers looking to take the next step, our source points to web4.community as a tangible path to transition away from centralized social networks. It's really all about building dedicated, purpose-built microspaces where you have full ownership over the culture, the norms, and the environment, finally aligning our digital tools with our natural evolutionary capacity for connection.
To wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final thought to chew on. Will you remain a captive audience to the global outrage algorithm, or are you ready to reclaim your digital living room and see your neighbors as complex humans once again? The experiment of the centralized mega platform has clearly shown its limits, but micro-communities offer an optimistic, highly viable way forward. Thank you so much for exploring this with me. Now it's time to find or build your very own digital village.